Hello and welcome to the Stringers Podcast number 5. Cinco de Podcasto Stringer. Is that racist? I hope not. I don't mean it to be racist. I'm trying to be nice here. Man, 5th one, and I'm really excited because we have David Alter joining us. Kind of fitting, seeing as though the NHL season is upon us. At Dalter on Twitter, at DavidAlter35 on Instagram. But first, Kylie.
Hello.
How you did? See, I'm glad you did that voice. I wanted you to do that voice. I was thinking of it, and you read my thoughts. It's a long weekend this weekend. It is a big weekend this weekend. Everyone's so very excited. What do you got going on?
All right. Friday, we got Blade Runner. It's being released.
Ooh, Blade Runner. You excited to see it?
Just for Ryan Gosling.
A nice Canadian connection there.
Yeah.
You can be excited for Ryan Gosling. I'm going to be excited for Harrison Ford. And you know what? No one minds like a good sequel 30 years later.
Saturday, we got a saber battle.
Saber, like buffalo sabers, like lightsabers.
Lightsabers.
Now, this is a big step for you because you have admitted you're not the biggest Star Wars fan.
No.
But
I started off with Blade Runner. That's kind of sci-fi, right?
Definitely. It's your sci-fi weekend.
Yeah.
And then Saturday, you're going to break out the lightsaber. Okay, you got to pick your color, though, for what color your lightsaber is going to be.
Oh,
Blue?
Blue.
Good. You're on the good side, then.
Okay.
Just don't pick red, or else we won't mix.
I don't know the difference between the colors, so I'm just going to leave that to you.
Just guess.
I don't know.
Red's evil. Blue is happy.
Okay.
And Sunday,
Thanksgiving. I'm probably going to be...
That's a good, actually.
I'm probably going to be on the couch eating leftovers, maybe, or I'm not too sure.
So, when does your family do it? Does your family do it Saturday night then?
I don't really know. I asked my mom this the other day. She's like, I have no idea. So, I'm just going to go with it, and I don't know if you guys do Sunday or Monday, but...
Enjoy the Thanksgiving weekend is what we're saying. The Canadian Thanksgiving weekend.
And if your family's not in town, you can go to an all-you-can-eat Thanksgiving dinner at One King West.
Whoa, have you ever been to One King West?
No, never.
Oh, it's beautiful. It's there's a hotel there.
Yeah.
There's a hotel lobby bar that I really like.
A rooftop pool.
Is there a rooftop?
They have one?
I don't know. I've never been to the rooftop. That's all the way up.
You seem like you know it.
Oh, I love the building, but heights, totally not my thing.
Love heights.
Excellent weekend ahead.
Yep.
I'm going to be jetting off to go see Foo Fighters in California.
Jealous.
I'm pretty excited. It's a little bit of a birthday trip for my brother. So this is his present. He's never been to California. We've traveled around a couple times to see the Foo Fighters. So I'm going to be out of town. Before we get to David Alter, though, I've been giving you a little too much power. I have. You know, we come to this point, and I always hand it to you, but damn it, Devil Woman, play me my sax! Uber Black.
That was Uber Black.
I like Uber Black.
Wow. I could tell. I was like, holy jeez, this guy. Like, opening the door for me and stuff.
Really?
Yeah, like, I usually just Uber X it. You could have gotten X. It's so big
No! This is how excited I am that you're here.
This office. So, look at you. You got new Macs or old Macs? I don't know.
They're new-ish. They were bought this year. We had them at the old spot.
A couple of Thunderbolt displays.
Displays?
Like, the last...
Yeah, I have one in there. Not the one you can see, but the one against the wall.
Yeah, so you know how they stopped making them?
Yeah, and I love them.
Yeah, so I have 2.
What size?
27 inches each.
Okay, let's talk after this because I think I know a guy that'll take them off your hand. I love those displays.
Yeah.
They were my favorites. And I was upset.
Put them on Kijiji right now, but let me know.
No,
so
yeah.
I'm trying to buy I don't care that it's Mac. I know a lot of Mac enthusiasts prefer it. I want to buy this LG 43-inch that splits into 4 different.
Well, things. LG is the one. Like they've now partnered with LG to be their display manufacturer.
This one isn't one of those ones that are like for Mac.
Yeah,
it's like
it's just for LG.
Like it doesn't have the camera lens on it.
Right.
It's LG. It does work with Thunderbolt too, or 3 or whatever. But I just love that it's got 4K resolution at 60 frames, but it has 4 different panels that
Yeah.
you can hook up, and you can have 4
Split.
different HDMI displays show up on the screen.
Which means you could really have. They don't all have to be computer inputs, do they?
No, they could be Apple TV. I could be watching a game while watching a thing, and that. I like that stuff. So.
We have a mutual friend, Chris Lund.
Yes.
And I was speaking with him last week. We haven't run into each other since, probably shortly after the draft, right around where the rookie tournament happens. And we just haven't crossed paths, which is crazy. But I told him that you were coming on this week, and he was really excited. And he said, the one thing you probably don't know about David is he's a big gearhead.
Oh, yeah.
And I had a big tech guy.
Yeah.
And so I'm glad that we're into this even so quickly.
No, I'm diehard. Even when I was between other assignments, I came close to writing for. We're not roll. Are we rolling yet?
It's a soft start. So
is it?
Yeah. So at any point we can cut something out, or we can come right in.
I just didn't want to. I was close to leaving writing hockey and writing about tech.
No way.
Just because some of my favorite sites are like Mobile Syrup and like iPhone and Android in Canada, and like the tech websites that actually have a bit of a Canadian slant to them too. So if and I met some of the guys too, because when I was working at the National Post, they sent me to cover Rogers 4K announcement, and I was like the only sports reporter there. Everyone else was kind of a tech reporter.
Yeah.
And like I love some of the I follow a lot of YouTubers on YouTube that do the unboxings,
the demos,
stuff. And
I
I just I'm like, yeah, I would totally. It's also like a great scam they pulled, because they get all the shit for free just to unbox. They get paid.
Casey Neistat is one of them.
Yeah, so he's one of the guys. He's a little bit more not my style. I do like his stuff, but he's more like kind of filming himself, kind of skate like with GoPros.
Yeah.
I love Marcus Brownlee, like his YouTube videos. Unbox Therapy guy, the guy Lewis, he's from Toronto, actually.
No way.
Like
is he still in Toronto, or does he?
I don't know if his warehouse is in Toronto or LA, because it's easier to get things in the States than it is in Canada. That's my number one complaint.
Yeah,
but so there's all that stuff, and but I really do like the stuff that they do. They make it look really. Yesterday he was unboxing this LG 73 wallpaper display, 73-inch wallpaper display. It's millimeters thin. It's thinner than a Bic pen.
Wow.
And it goes against the wall and has a strip where it connects to a sound bar that has all the other HDMI ports to it. So the screen itself is super paper thin, and then all the other components that you would plug into the screen are separate.
You know what it reminds me of? Do you ever see Paycheck? I think it was called. It was with, it's not Matt Damon, but it's his writing partner, Ben Affleck.
Oh, Ben Affleck.
Ben Affleck and Paycheck. And basically it's set in a future time, and he's a reverse engineer, right? So one company comes up with, whatever crazy idea, and he reverse engineers it. But basically, I think at the beginning of the movie, they were dealing with a paper-thin display, and then his addition to it's like, who needs a display at all? And he was able to take away the actual display part, and then it was holographic. But it's weird to me that we're finally at a spot where paper thin is a real thing.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. He was like, you could slightly bend it too when he was taking it, and it's just like, oh, that's so weird. And they call it a wallpaper display because when it's on the wall, it's a screen, but it blends in with artwork. It's like that thin that it's just...
It's like a poster.
Yeah,
basically.
But it's incredible. So there's that. Yesterday I watched the show, Jeremy Piven. He's got a new show on CBS called Wisdom of the Crowd or something.
He's basically crowdsourcing a murder.
Yeah. So I actually like that. I'm not usually into the CBS crime shows, but I liked how they took today's 21st century Silicon Valley-esque kind of way of basically how there's Uber of fixing rideshare and all these other things. So they pretty much found the Uber of crime solving by crowdsourcing everybody's intel to try and. I mean, there's ways it backfires like everything else, but all that stuff.
Feel free to adjust this up if it's annoying you.
It looks good to me.
Oh, it's good to you?
Yeah. As long as you can hear me in the levels there.
I can hear you.
Yeah. Thankfully, I have a loud voice that travels, and I worked in radio.
It carries. You were 590, right?
I was 590 for 8 years.
I think that's when we first met. I was doing Marley's at the time.
And I was being sent to...
And you were being sent because in 2012 they went the Calder Cup run.
Yep. I was a general Toronto assignment reporter, so I pretty much just ate whatever they would give me from a reporting or anchoring or whatever assignment, to the point where I didn't really have much of a social life for much of my 20s because I had my shifts, but I also was the standby first call, first email guy. Yeah. I would always get Doug Fairway, my boss at the time, I always told him, if you need someone to fill in, I'll be your no hassle fill in. And he would literally at 8:05 in the morning email me, and I'd be sleeping next to my Barry at the time. And I'd be like, okay, I'm going. But in 2006, I was an intern, one of the few that had a Barry because I was such a gearhead. But because of that, I was able to configure my intern email to my phone. So when the boss would put out these generic things being on to all the interns, we had like 20 interns at one point, be like, hey, who can do this? Boom, reply within seconds. I got it. Right. I got it. I can do it. I can do it.
You didn't have to wait. And it's funny to remember.
But tech helped me get to that point, which is why I'm a big gearhead.
It's funny to remember a time that we had to open up our computer. Like, we had to wait till we got to our computer in the morning and hit send receive and check all the emails. Yeah. Because we've been so immersed now for over a decade.
What's amazing is how much BlackBerry dropped the ball.
BlackBerry owned the market.
Right.
They were that business, social, connective device that you could do everything from. And then it seemed like in about 6 months, they completely lost it.
U2's tour in 2009 was sponsored by BlackBerry.
Oh, boy.
But, I mean, your sponsor, they've already paid out the money. So what's happened to that company since doesn't really affect their bottom line.
No, of course not.
I mean, when they continued the tour in 2011, BlackBerry was not a sponsor anymore. It was because of what had happened. Yeah. And actually, apparently I heard a story that when U2 released their album in 2014, back with Apple, with that whole debacle.
I was going to make a joke about that, but I'm glad you did.
But the reason why they were able to get back with Apple after leaving Apple in 2004 when they had the U2 iPod, and then they went in 2009 with BlackBerry. Apparently, Steve Jobs was so mad he disowned U2 from any future business. But then Steve Jobs passed away, and Tim Cook reopened it. And look what happened.
Yeah, and they were able to push.
Now they got a new album coming out in December, and they'll probably do it the traditional way.
Are you a U2 fan?
Oh, diehard.
Yeah? Oh, it's amazing. Yeah. So here's my real introduction to U2, and it's not even exactly U2. I'm an alternative rock kind of fan. That's what I grew up through. And so they're always kind of on the airwaves, and you know of them, but I hadn't really latched on until I was at a small bar in Toronto, and the band on stage did a cover of Where the Streets Have No Name.
Oh, that's a hard one to do a cover of.
That's a very hard one to do a cover of. And then I fell in love with the song, and then I kind of went down the road a little bit, and I actually don't even think at the time I knew it was from U2. Like, I think I went and sought it out, and then I hear this insane story of how that track almost apparently didn't make the album.
Yeah, they had a hard time with the intro. They almost, Bono actually was like, they got so frustrated with that intro because they couldn't get it going that he had a tantrum, and he threw whatever DAC tapes that they had to record it in the garbage. Like, he physically, and he told I guess Steve Lillywhite, who's a producer or whoever, he's like, I never want to see this again, like ever. And what happened was he cooled off, and the producer took it back out in the bin. And a few days later, begrudgingly to Bono, he's like, "We're going to try it one more time." And then
then they got it.
And they got it.
So that was my gateway. So I find this song, and then I figure out it's by U2, and then I figure out the backstory, and now it's even more incredible. And then you listen to the album. There's a very large section of people that will say that was their greatest album. I don't know too many. Yeah, it's hard when I'm across the table. Well, and they
just toured that album again. Well, the Joshua Tree tour 2017, which me as a U2 fan, I actually did not like that. I don't really. They've never been about glorifying the past. Yeah, they've always seemed to kind of look to the future. And so to do what felt like a best of felt like not the real live U2 experience. So thank God they've got new material coming in December, and they're going to tour that, because that to me is the more ebb and flow of a U2 show, where on this tour they played some songs from before that album, and then the middle part of the set was playing that album from front to back. And have you ever been to a U2 show before?
I have not, no.
Yeah, you got to go to one at least in your lifetime, but the songs sound better live than they do on the album. That's their trademark is how good they sound live. But when they performed an album like Joshua Tree from front to back, it just lost momentum of the show for me because their 4 big singles are their first 4 tracks.
Right.
So they play those, and then as you get to the second side B, when it was a tape, when you get to that, they're just like, well, the crowd's kind of like, I felt like the momentum's kind of dying in the show because I don't think albums, when you play them front to back, work the same as the songs do live.
So much of the live environment, I feel, is about singing along.
Sure.
It's about knowing when they go into an extended breakdown, you're like, oh, this is new, this is exciting, where it's not that you can't really tune out. You can't really lose the audience for 4 songs just to bring them back in.
Yeah, so it really did feel like that. I mean, on the last tour where they toured an album, they had this new screen. Like, that's another reason why I like U2 is because they're always on the cusp of anything tech when it comes to their live stage show presentation. In 97, when they did Pop Mart, they toured a 180 foot wide by 90 like LED screen, LED in 97. So like it was so experimental that LED bulbs were popping out.
No
and they
way.
had people behind the stage
working it
like as like on guy wires, just trying to like drill them back in as the show's going along. So there's that. The U2 360 tour, that's the one I told you about from BlackBerry in 09. It cost like $1 million a day to put on, and they had this spaceship catwalk that with the roof open at Rogers Center. It went from like the outfield to second base, like the actual size of the stage in the middle, to make a big 55,000 seat venue feel intimate. It was just such a spectacle. And then in 2001, when they did Elevation, they were the first band to do that stage that was cylindrical where fans are inside
the
and
middle,
outside. And then every award show did it after
I was just going to say, now you see it a lot at the award shows.
So they've always tried these. The last tour wasn't anything special, but all these other tours, they've always tried to push something that no one's ever done. And that's part of that experience too.
Now, the neat thing I find about music that I can't think of another art form that you really see it the same in, is the traveling fan. You see it in sports.
Yeah.
You don't see it so much in any other art form except for music.
Yeah.
Are there any other venues
that
you've seen them in? Where have you traveled to watch U2?
After I was done university, that was my 1 year to kind of get it all out of my system because especially from years 2006 to 2014, I was on call my whole life. But
sleeping beside your BlackBerry or whatever device.
So I'd see the shows in Toronto, but that was it for those. I wish I saw more of those because it was my favorite tour. But on the Vertigo tour, I went to a bunch of different places. And because it was more of a stripped down show, that was probably the tour they kind of shuffled up the set list more than anything else. So
you get different experiences.
Yeah. I've seen them in Boston. I've seen them in where else have I seen them? I saw them in Anaheim, California on a school field trip in 2001. How I got away with that, I don't know. We had this thing called DECA. I don't know if you ever heard of DECA. It was like a business club. That was across North America for high school, and there were different chapters in the States. It was big in the States, but Ontario had a chapter, and if you qualified, you can go to it. It was like a week-long field trip in April of 2001, and I really wanted to get on that trip because U2 was playing 3 shows at the Pond that same week. And our convention center and the hotels was like hop, step, and a jump away.
Yeah. Which is probably the only time anyone's a hop, step, and a jump away from the Pond. I learned this the hard way. Anaheim's not close to LA.
No.
At all. I took a cab.
No.
It took me forever.
No.
So it worked out for you, and I'm really glad.
Yeah, no. It was Anaheim and Anaheim. Yeah. So, we could walk to it. I've probably seen over 30 shows. I've lost count at this point, but all over North America. I haven't seen them in Europe.
That's like the next bucket list.
Well, because the crowd is just so up for it. But seeing them in Boston was a pretty cool experience because Boston's like Little Ireland, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So you see that there, it's pretty cool. Yeah, I did Detroit. I did Buffalo a bunch of times because it's close by.
Yeah. Do you find that they usually have a Toronto date? Like, is it a destination for them that they like coming back to the city?
Yeah, well, in 2005, when they were doing a lot of the arena shows, they did 4. In Toronto. I mean, they did 7 in Boston once. It felt like overkill. And 7 at MSG. Where, like, by the time you get to 6 and 7, the diehard's still there. It's like, okay, 7th night already? Yeah. Anyway, so, but Toronto, they did 4. And Toronto, they seem to do this thing where they added a different thing to the set list that's not typical of other shows. So you really do feel like, oh, that's cool.
It's unique.
Like, they appreciate Toronto because they're doing some sort of setlist variation that like is very different.
So my band, my U2 is the Foo Fighters. They're my guys, and I'm actually going this weekend down to California because they're kind of hosting this year's Cal Jam, or they're the impetus behind it. So my brother and I are going, but we've traveled around to go see Foo Fighters, and it's neat, first of all, because you mix visiting new places. Like, I've been to California, but I've never been to San Bernardino, which is kind of neat. And so we're staying at a little Airbnb up in the hills, which is going to be totally different than any other experience I've ever had, where I usually stay near the beach. We went to Louisiana, to New Orleans over Halloween because they played Voodoo Festival there a few years back, and that was an unreal experience because you get to be in New Orleans for Halloween, which is a week-long party. And then you get to go see your favorite band. So that's like this neat part of it where they're kind of life events. It's not just seeing a concert. You are kind of experiencing and growing who you are as a person and seeing more things and taking in new experiences because of it. And that's what I love about it.
I remember, I don't know if you've ever seen Coldplay live before, but
I haven't. I was able to. I was at a festival where they were playing. And I just...
You missed it?
Was it
like the double stage where you're on the wrong stage?
4 stages, and you kind of have to pick your favorite bands. And Coldplay sort of didn't make the cut.
In 2003 was SARS, and everyone was canceling shows, and they kept their show, and at the end of Clocks, Chris Martin was adding lyrics about why they didn't cancel the show.
No way.
Like towards the end, so the crowd went like nuts for that. So like that's probably the most personal I've ever seen the band's relationship to Toronto, like live, that was of that kind of big level, that weren't from Toronto, that like showed it. So they did that. I remember, where was that plane crash, the Air France crash in Toronto, 2005 or 2 years later? I'm
trying to think of where I was when it happened.
Coldplay played a show in Toronto that same day too, and so like during that song "Politic," like he's like, "Give me a crash where everyone survives." So so it was just like they're very with what's happening in Toronto at that moment in time. And so now I imagine with the politics and everything that's going on in the States, I imagine even more so people are more connected with the city than ever.
Now, this is interesting, and this is why I love this method of talking to people and podcasting, because we can go down whatever road, and it just leads us to spaces I never even thought we'd touch on. What do you think Toronto has? I'm going to like nerd out on Toronto for a minute. What do you think we have here that allows the arts communities, like music, to connect? Is it the people? Is it the diversity, do you think? I'm interested because I have many more examples of bands who too find it a special home.
I think it's because it's so close to the States, but when they get here, they can really feel the difference.
Right.
Like, when you drive across the border to Buffalo, you can feel the difference from Fort here right away.
Niagara Falls.
Like, it feels immediately different. Yeah. Like, from even like the little subtleties, like the way the street signs look, the concrete bridge, like the concrete roads over the bridges, and how your car sounds over that, like with that high pitch that it makes. I think when people go to the States first and then come to Toronto, which is usually the pattern, they can sense the difference. I don't know if it's going to hold because of how globalized the world is becoming, but I know before the internet was as big as it was now, like bands would go into the States and come to Canada and feel like, wow, they were a lot more receptive, like more right away, more grabbing to it, more carefree, more letting loose. I felt that way about Toronto early. As I get older, I kind of feel like Toronto doesn't really know its true identity compared to older cities. Because when you think about it, even though Toronto's an old city, its identity has changed a lot recently due to like political things. Like remember Montreal used to be the flagship of Canada back in the 70s and 80s. And then when the PLQ stuff and all that stuff was happening, every Anglophone made their way down to Toronto, and Toronto became the new, big populace of Canada. So it's weird how things are kind of changing, and Toronto I still think is trying to figure out what they are, and I think that's part of its appeal too, that people just don't really have a real grasp of what it is until they get here.
Here's my take on it, is I think Toronto, because again of our proximity to the United States and the fact that we're a major, populace, a major metropolitan area, but there's this longing still to be considered as good as a U.S. city. Does
Yeah.
that make sense?
Yeah.
Like everyone still kind
Toronto
of
feels a little isolated from the rest of Canada that way.
It feels like we're kind of like the U.S.'s kid brother. We're
Right.
L.A. and New York and Chicago.
We feel a little
kid
bit
brother.
more comfortable in a bigger city like New York than we would maybe in Winnipeg.
Yeah, exactly. Completely.
Yeah.
But we don't feel that we're exactly given the respect from our, southern brothers.
Sure.
That we are a real city. Like we keep proving ourselves. And so when we get a big band, or especially an American band here, we almost feel justified.
Right.
Like they have justified the way we feel about ourselves. And yes, you came here. And so we then go a little over and want to be really receptive and see, look, you can belong here too. But it's interesting what you had said about identity, because I almost feel, and I don't know really what sparked the change. Perhaps Drake is in there, and the fact that he went global.
Yeah.
I think the Raptors' rise helped
Vince Carter?
I think it was post Vince Carter, because I think the Raptors, I love Vince Carter, and I think he did a lot for the city and for the game and the game north of the border. But I don't think the 2007, 6, 7, 8, 9 Raptors were still being taken seriously.
Oh, for sure.
I don't think it was until DeMar really came into form. We got Kyle, we got Rudy, got rid of Rudy. And they made strong pushes year after year in the playoffs, that the city, mixed with the attention Drake brought to the city, that there became this Toronto pride, this Six pride.
Sure.
But I don't feel... I agree with you that I don't feel that's an identity that anyone's found.
Yeah, well, I'll get... the way I describe the identity in Toronto and its missing identity from the past is in food. Like you don't go somewhere.
I like where this is going.
You don't go where Montreal's known for smoked meat. Like Montreal's known for specific types of foods, like their bagels or whatever. Chicago style pizza, New York, whatever.
Yep.
All this stuff.
New York style pizza, right? You have your East Coast,
right? There's L.A., Hollywood. There's Vancouver, Hollywood North Mountains, Pacific Northwest. They feel like their own Cascadia. Or Toronto is just like, when I go travel in the States and I'm taking an Uber or I'm talking to people, Drake is the first thing they know about Toronto, and that's it. But if they didn't have Drake, they're like, oh, Toronto, like I don't know anything about
the Blue Jays?
But people don't know about Toronto aside from a couple of franchises that come into their sports town every now and then.
So we're going to right the ship. That's what we're going to do. We have some U.S. listeners, and we have some random European listeners. When I look at the breakdown of where people are coming from, I'm like, wow, where did we get Liechtenstein or whatever? Like, how did we get this one country? It's like 30,000 people.
Yeah, I've driven through it on a tour bus when I was going around Europe. Like they have a little stand. It's not very big. It's like the size of a small community in York region.
But it's amazing because you get to check it off your list. You're like, and I've been there.
And they have a stand where you can pay €2 just to get your passport stamped. Because it's so small, and you would never go through a passport thing anyway, but people want to show where they've been, so they actually have a little stand in the middle of their downtown.
You can stamp it.
Get stamped for $2.
Three things that aren't well known about Toronto that you think people should know about Toronto.
Ooh.
And I'm not going to hold you to something that I won't do myself. But if we're delving into these secrets, we're saying that, yes, everyone first probably says Drake, and then maybe either the Maple Leafs or the Blue Jays.
So the 3 things people should know when they visit: rent a car, because transit sucks.
And it's the second largest city by land area in North America.
By land area? I didn't know the land area.
Number one's LA.
Right.
By land area, it's the second largest city.
Wow. Okay. I didn't
LA
know that.
is one, which everyone says you need a car in LA.
Yeah.
You can't take
even
transit.
then they're putting a lot of money into their transit. Part of LA's thing too is it's a socio-economic thing where people don't want to be seen. If they're well off, it's about the car they drive in LA, not necessarily about because they're like, no one walks in LA. It's just little things like that. So there's that. So that's one.
Yeah.
What are the other 2 things they should know? Know that there's always some pretty good little festivals going on, like Taste of the Danforth and things like that. So I would say
check the festival circuit.
Always check that. Like Nuit Blanche was this past weekend. There's always these weird
the jazz
things.
festival, like TD Jazz Festival, whatever. It's sponsored right now by TD.
I don't know if they still do the Harbourfront concerts. I think they still do.
I think they do.
Yeah, because I hadn't gone to those in years. It shows you my Toronto pride. But I used to. I used to a lot.
You're jaded, David. You're jaded.
The other thing they should know is it's incredibly safe. Like it is, like a lot of people want to live here because of the lack of drama that happens here. Toronto has its crime. It's a big city. It's going to have its crime, but the per capita compared to anywhere else.
And I don't want to quote numbers because I know I'll get it wrong, and I hate being wrong. But I remember seeing the homicides this year, and I did the math in my head because I know we usually average between 60 and 70, which, first of all, 60 to 70 is what we average.
Right.
You see that a month in a city like Chicago.
Yeah.
Right? But 60 to 70 is what we average a year. And it was high 30s, low 40s. And then I do the math in my head. I'm like, whoa, we're trending below average this year. And then you get a little bit of pride out of that.
Like, and I'm not crapping on Toronto. The things I don't like are also the things I like. If Toronto lacks a certain personality when you walk on the street, I mean, the benefit of that is it's incredibly safe too.
Right.
Like there's gives and takes with it.
What I enjoy about Toronto is the fact that I can in a New York style way, I can disappear in different neighborhoods.
Yep.
Right? I can, and I've done it so many times where I just spend a week and all I want to hang out in is Little Italy.
Right.
Right? Because I just get in this vibe in my head and I'm like, no, I want to go to this place again, and I want to go to this restaurant again, and I want to go to this pool hall or this pub or whatever, and it's all in one neighborhood.
Right.
And then I'll move and I'll go into like Danforth and the Greek Village, or I'll go into Chinatown or stuff like that. I love being able to disappear into these little pockets and it feel different than where I disappeared last time. And even, you take somewhere as crazy as Liberty Village right now where there's 1,000 condos and only one stinking road in and out.
Yep.
As terrible as it is to get through there, it too has its own kind of identity made by the young professional.
Yeah.
Right? And so you get a certain vibe when you're out at the Williams Landing or whatever is
right.
oh shit, I'm going to have to cut this out. I don't remember the other
part. It's the Brazen Head.
Brazen Head. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
It itself has its own little like vibe to it, and I love that about the city. And so I think I'd tell people Bloor Line. I think if you're a traveler to Toronto, stick on the Bloor Line. Think of what you get. You get Danforth. You can get Young Bloor, which is kind of, or Yorkville and Bloor, which is kind of your shopping hub and of all the stores I can't afford anything in. Like, you keep going west, you get in the Annex, which is great. You kind of your north end of like Little Korea or Koreatown, which is great as well. You get Bloor West Village if you still go out. High Park, that's Bloor. I think stick close to the Bloor Danforth line if you're visiting Toronto. Yeah, that's where you can experience
and
the
you can
most.
take that all the way to Kipling, and then
you got Etobicoke.
Then you got the bus to the airport there, so it's only $3 if you want to do it that way, or you could just take the Up Express.
The Up. So you're an intern at 590. That's where we started the conversation. Yeah, and look where we went all the way around. I was an intern
at 590 in 2006, and I turned into a part-timer later that year. I got my start doing World Cup hits because there was like a partnership with the World Cup, so they had reporters and some interns who they felt comfortable with doing on the phone live hits from bars. So if Netherlands was playing Portugal, I was at Betty's where the Netherlands party was, and I was talking about what happened there, and then threw it back to whatever, and that was pretty cool. It turned into a producer reporter job, which turned into a reporter anchor job, which turned into Leafs beat reporter for 3 seasons. So it was quite the run.
You have a vast resume when it comes to reporting. Was radio your sweetheart?
Well, yeah, it was, because I went to Western and I studied economics, but I spent most of my time at the campus radio station because one of my best friends who works in our industry too was actually studying, I think it was communications, but he had an indie music radio station at Brock, and I visited him in my first year. I'm like, it's kind of cool, but I'm not really into the indie music thing. I don't know if whatever. But then in my second year at Western, I was on a all MIT faculty floor. It just happened as an upper year living in Res. That's where they put me. Yeah. And so they were like, oh, we're going to go check out this campus radio station. I wasn't really in the mood, but they kind of dragged me to go with them. So I was like, okay, I'll go. And then that's where I found out that they do play-by-play for sports and campus sports. I'm like, hell yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah.
That
I'm
sounds
totally
like fun.
on board. Yeah.
So I ended up spending so much time there. I did play-by-play for Mustang football for about 6 seasons, from 2005 after school to even when I was at the Fan at 2010. They were still encouraging me on those Saturdays to do it because they were happy with me developing the skill.
Yeah.
You know, you never knew when football was going to be big here. I mean, in 2008, we had that Bills-Toronto series thing. You didn't know if the NFL was imminent, and maybe
there was thoughts. There was tons of rumors behind it.
I covered it. I would go to games in Buffalo because it was a Rogers property, and all the Buffalo beat reporters looked at me as if I was the Grim Reaper, like because they thought, "Oh, what's the vibe? What's going on? Are we losing the team?" You know, I did that for a while, but so campus radio led me to just sending my MP3s, cuts of stuff I did to Doug Fairway, who got back to me, who gave me an internship, which turned into
the whole list.
All this. And then that turned into a year with the Leafs website, which was cool, which turned into a very brief stint at National Post as a Leaf reporter before they shut down the sports department. And then, from that, I worked at Twitter Canada after that, doing Moments. I was on the launch team that created Moments on Twitter. So that was cool. And then this past year with The Athletic, which was cool. The last 2 jobs I've had, I've been a day oneer. Like on the launch of a project, and both of those are still around. So it's cool because like with The Athletic and with Twitter, I was kind of tech focused, so this kind of makes sense for me.
Yeah.
I didn't want to leave doing hockey, and I still think I'll be doing that. I just it's been a weird, windy road. Like we live in a gig economy now, for sure. So
it's a great way to put it. It's wild because everyone has this experience, this history of like sleeping with your BlackBerry. If you're still in the industry now, when we were together like 10 years ago, if you're still doing it now, it's because we all have the experience of working 7 days a week and getting called at 8 a.m. or 11 p.m. and sleeping with your BlackBerry and not really knowing where you're going the next day until it rings and it tells you. Is that being lost? Is that, and should it be lost?
No, it's. I think it's having a renaissance period.
I start sleeping with my iPhone now.
People are going to be doing it a little bit more, especially people of our age, because so I was that way. Obviously, I made my name by being available and always being next to my messages, and I still love tech. But you'll notice my phone's not even on the table; it's on the floor where I can't see it, so that I can focus on this. And
I hit airplane mode. That's my new last year.
But in the past, that would make me freak out.
Yeah.
Now maybe it's because I'm between assignments, so that kind of helps too.
Yeah.
But I actually got to the point where it was better for my health. You need to take the breaks.
Yeah.
You need to kind of experience the world around you as well. I think it's good to just, especially set boundaries for yourself to get the human reset. Like, you want to go, be busy, all that stuff. But I mean, there are things in life where you just lose that connection if you're too tethered. And I feel like we're getting to that point where anything in excess can be too much. Mm-hmm. And so even though there are practical uses for things, it's not only going to be that thing. There's always a pushback. Nothing ever goes in a linear path to tech or whatever. There's going to be bumps where people are going to be like, okay, we've had this. Now we need to step it back a little bit and figure out how the new thing will adapt to our lives without disassociating us too much.
My brother's my best friend. I like saying that. But I'm the oldest of 3. And
which brother? Let's put him on the spot. The other one.
Both of them.
Okay.
You don't know their names. No, Eric and I, Trevor and I are 5.5 years apart. He's the youngest one. And so we have a real older brother, younger brother vibe going. But the middle one, we're just pals.
Cool.
He's my best friend.
I only have one older brother, and he's 6.5 years older than me, so I know what you're talking about.
You understand, what the age gap is like. But Eric once said to me, the middle one, and this was random, and he was so wise at the time. We were having breakfast, actually at Mars, which is Young and Egg neighborhood. So we were at Mars having breakfast one morning, and I don't know what he read in me. And we were early 20s at the time, and he said, you know what? Clay, you just got to find time where you can sit under a tree and read a book and be okay with yourself. And it wasn't, and he was just telling me just to Like, unplug from life and be okay with the idea that you can unplug for life and buy yourself an hour or two, and whatever happens in those 2 hours doesn't really matter. Like nothing's going to so drastically change that you can't pick it up and fix it once you come back to your phone or come back to your computer. And I always remember that. I was like, man, you're so wise. And it's awesome. It's awesome when you see that in younger siblings, right? Because I'm the one who gets through my teens first. And then you're kind of waiting for them to do it as well. And here he comes with like the life-changing motivational speech that makes me look at life in a whole different way. But yeah, buying out that time, just being able to unplug, as you said, you put your phone on the floor, whatever it is, and just being cool with it.
Yeah. Well, that way, even though it's on vibe, I won't hear it.
You won't hear it. I'll also flip mine over, right?
Oh, yeah,
so it's on vibrate, so I won't see,
the
notification come up that someone so-and-so is texting you or whatever. Like, now with push alerts, I feel like it goes off every 5 minutes, and I don't even really care, but I have to look at it.
Those because I had a lot of like Twitter tech sites for all different kinds of things, and I got to shut them off because I'm already a pull person towards that anyway. They don't need to push me to go there, so I really don't need the push alerts anymore. Like, a lot of people forget to turn off their push alerts, but they're already checking that site a few times a day on their own. Yeah. So why do you need the push alert?
Well, why do you need to be told again?
Yeah. So I mean, it's just a behavior pattern. It's like why people don't delete apps on their phones, even though they don't use them anymore. You just don't get around to it.
I'm raising my hand.
Yeah, you don't get around to it. No. That's what it is. It's not a priority for your day.
It's like maybe one day I might maybe use it again, maybe, probably not.
Right.
I can get rid of it.
Yeah.
What do you think when you look at yourself, and this is a bit of introspective, and I apologize if it takes you off guard, what trait do you see in yourself that has allowed you to shift and adapt and move? Like what is your, I don't want to say talent, that's mean, but what do you have that's allowed you to keep going for more than a decade in a career that's evolved, like in an industry that's evolved 3-4 times?
It's simple. I think we talked about it off the top, which is I'm that adaptable to technology. Yeah. Like when a new thing comes, I know how to do it, and I can. Even when I'm in the press box, I get other reporters, especially older ones, just saying, "Hey, Dave, how do I do this in my?" Right. Like people know how to share a Twitter video because it's not the same as sharing a Twitter photo.
Right.
But like little amenable things like that they don't know that I could pick up quickly and do it very independently. And I'm always scouring these things every day in my personal time because I'll see something, I'll be like, that's going to be the new thing. I'll tell you another anecdote about that. So when I started at the Fan, people were using Marantz machines to record audio on location and coming back to the studio to file. So I would see this and I'd be like, well, I have an iPod that can record audio. Yeah. So why would I carry this big bulky thing? Yeah. Doesn't make any sense to me.
I love where you're going with this.
When I'm already carrying this thing. So I would record it on my iPod. Starbucks had Wi-Fi, but people weren't using it as much back then. But
so it was fast.
Well, no, it wasn't. It wasn't necessarily like super fast. Like they've gotten better with bandwidth at these locations, but it's just not a lot of people were using it, right? So I would be on location. I'd have to file like a voicer. Back then, the Fan had longer updates where you would do like a 45-second report with a clip inside. And so I'd have my computer, and a lot of people would be like, oh, well, they do it at 12, and then they wouldn't get their voicer filed to like 3 or 4 because they'd have to come back, find the studio to cut the audio. And that made no sense to me whatsoever. When I had my own thing, which I didn't have to go and get this machine to record audio onto a compact flash card. It would record on my iPod. I would import the MP3 file on Audacity or something. Yeah. Recorded the audio. I would record it in my car so I wouldn't be like blasting out this voicer in front of like people drinking coffee and people looking at me like I'm crazy. So I'd go in the car, record my take, and I'd put it together and I'd email it to someone, or they gave me a web remote version of Burley, which was our audio editing stuff, and I would be able to put it up there in hours before. Hours before. There was one time when I was working at Leafs.com. Do you remember SaluteGate?
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. So basically no one was allowed to broadcast or anything or do anything like that because it was such a sensitive day. Yeah. But I had a SoundCloud account, And I recorded these things. I knew it was a high interest day.
Yeah.
Dion Phaneuf would have a scrum about it, and it got very heated, that scrum. And I'm like, you know what? As soon as I ran out, I was able to, on my phone, within seconds, put that up there on Twitter. Like I have an app called Twisted Wave, which cuts before and after, so you're not getting all this garbage before and after.
Yep.
And you like the only thing it can edit all audio, it just can't multi-track. That's all it can do. But that's all I needed. So I do that, put it up there, and within seconds after it happened, like seconds, I'm outside, I'm putting it on my phone, and I can do it immediately. And it's there for people to listen to. It's getting retweeted. Whatever, all that stuff. But people know me for my immediacy in that response. And that's kind of harkened to my old radio days. So little apps, little things that change the technology is kind of what keeps me around, even though I've bounced around in the last little bit, because I'll just see something. I'll be like, that could be done within seconds. I can do that so quickly. And just that comes from my gearhead techness background. I just, little things like that. I'm kind of a jack of all trades, which limits your ability to be specialized, but it's kind of why now in the last 4 years my resume has been so eclectic and different and
adaptability.
Adaptability.
But I think at the same time it's this innate ability to sense what the new thing's going to be.
Right.
So you have this, great anecdote of when you were a kid and you're like called upon to be this tech wizard and fix older kids' computers. This is my history being a shit disturber because I was the one who learned that the teacher's password was their full first name and the initial of their last name. And I learned very quickly how to log in as them, and I could change attendance records, and I can look at reports. It was amazing.
They're all listening now being like...
No, they caught me. I got shit for it.
So like any grade fiver, when you figure it out, you probably abused it too much. Like if you did it every now and then, it probably could have slipped in the cracks. No. But you did it too much.
And I was a show-off. I wanted to show everyone that I'm like, give me a teacher's name. Give it to me. Who do you got? I'll log in as them. Just you watch. You need a perfect attendance record? I'll give you a perfect...
Hacker renegade.
Is that a term that's even acceptable anymore? Is hacking...
Well, there's white hat hackers and black hat hackers.
Oh, tell me the difference.
Well, the white hat hackers are the ones that are hired by the government to make sure they don't get hacked. Because they're
kind of like the engineers.
Whoever it is, they're so like hackers. Like if you can hack the system, you're employable because they need to know what flaws are in their system. So those are the white hat hackers, the ones that do it for good. The black hat hackers are the ones that do it for bad. And
which one is Russia? There's my question. Are they white hat hackers?
I don't know.
They look great in those big white fluffy hats.
I don't know. So I spent a few weeks in Russia at the Worlds in 2016. Ooh. So that was pretty cool. The one thing I noticed about being in Russia was that anytime I logged into my online banking, even though like when you have cookies or whatever that remember you, every time I logged in on Russia, I always had to do the verification question no matter what.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
It's just like, are you sure you are where you think you are?
I must have known, so it's like, okay, but we're going to make you do your verification questions all the time. Even though like you're saved and it's from this computer, it was just that not sure about Russia.
I still look for the little pi symbol in the bottom right corner from Sandra Bullock and the net.
Oh my God, the net.
I still look for that was the back door, is you just find the little pi symbol. Kylie's looking at me with the blankest stare. I think the movie came out before you were born.
96.
90. Oh, so no, you were a solid one.
Yeah, right. The net. So 96 for millennials. Like 96 is when we started really using the internet a lot. Like it was the internet was becoming the mainstream, where it was starting. Like that's where AOL and all these people had dial-up internet. So it started to become a staple of the home. It was just starting, but it was strictly for low res, like reading. Like photos would come up in lines. The net was coming out there, and it was piggybacking off the internet being popular, but now if you watch it now, it's such a joke.
It's terrible. It's not terrible. I don't want to say it's terrible, but it's not something that stands the test of time.
No,
because you're like, no, that's not how it works. Like anyone, like a kid in grade 6 will be like, that's not how the internet works.
Yeah,
I'm sure of it.
But it's social media there either.
It's funny. It's funny the way that And you can tell what times we were living in based on what Hollywood wanted us to be afraid of, or what Hollywood knew we were afraid of, and so they made movies about.
Right.
And so you have like The Net, right? And then you had, after it, you had a series of natural disaster movies. And then you hit early 2000s and you have a series of both homeland and foreign terrorism, right? And then we go back to When Animals Attack, and you have a whole list of those. But they all kind of come at once. And then this is missing the whole Armageddon, all of the
Y2K?
space. All this. Oh yeah, there's the Y2K scare, but like all the space movies. But The Net, I thought of Hackers. We're talking about hacking.
Yeah.
Hackers with Angelina Jolie, which is another great film, but great, doesn't hold up. But it's funny their ability to sense what we're going to be afraid of and just feed it to us, because everyone thought The Net was legit.
Yeah, it was an interesting movie. It also used Macs. Like, all movies used Macs, and that's how Mac kind of kept their name when they were really struggling. PC was dominating in that, but every movie you saw, it was a Mac when they were using their
Which was really confusing.
It was.
At the age we were at, and you knew everyone used PCs.
Yeah.
Like, I am completely Apple, in an Apple environment.
Right.
Here, like, for all of our editing,
now it's the
our
mainstream.
servers, every piece is in an Apple environment.
For video editing, there's nothing that
but I set them all to right click. Fuck that command click shit. I ain't doing it. I want my right click. That's the one thing will always go with me.
Or
from the PC.
the double finger gestures too.
Yeah, you just do that.
Just
point down with your two fingers.
If you point down with the two fingers, it's like the same as double clicking. You can change that reference. I changed it too.
I'm your next assignment. You can just come sit with me for a week and make me smarter.
Yeah. But also, though, I mean, talk to people. Like, I talk to people who are younger than me, because, like, I learn things every day to the point where I'm just like, holy shit. Like, last year at The Athletic, I wrote, like, I just started getting ensconced in Reddit because I couldn't believe of how good a resource it was. Where before, I was just kind of like, oh, I thought it was this underground thing where people didn't know what they were talking about. And then they would pick up on something that I didn't see, and I would take that into the room, and it blew up when I wrote the story on that. It was Nazem Kadri's cat on Instagram. Like, all of a sudden, someone
I love the internet.
Someone caught it on a weekend. So on Monday, I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm going to ask Nazem Kadri about his cat. And I just wrote a quick blurb, like 500 word, not even, about how he discovered this cat and how he became a cat person. Of course, animals, Leafs,
Cats.
How can it not blow up?
Right.
So it it became an amazing resource for me. Like, it's unreal how good Reddit is a resource, which if you don't talk to people, you would not know this.
You mentioned 500 words, and I grew up, like, because I came into the industry on the written side. Are word counts even really a thing anymore? Do you find? Because I feel ever since
who you work for.
The Score, like, ever since The Score kind of came in, it feels like everything is 80 words.
Yeah, but that's because The Score primarily is doing content aggregation. Some people hate being confined by word count. I like it because
I like it too.
It gets me down to brass tacks.
Yeah.
Like, I find sometimes I'll read something and it's just too long. I'll just be like, okay, I don't need the flowery. Just give me the goods.
I like it because it gives me, someone else tells me how flowery this is supposed to be. Does that make sense?
I guess.
Like, we need 700 words on blah, or you're doing 1,600 words on this.
Yeah. No, well, so if something is 1,600 words, it really has to be
a deep dive.
Like a deep dive and savory enough for me to be interested in
Completely.
reading it all. Nuzzle's one of my favorite apps for that too. I don't know.
Nuzzle? No, I don't know.
I don't know if Nuzzle took your social media feeds, like your Twitter and your Facebook, and who you follow, and basically it would sort them. And I could sort in the last 24 hours the most shared links from my friends' social media leads. And so I would know what to read or was worth reading based on that. Like, I'm surprised none of the other social media feed. Twitter's sort of done that with in case you missed it when you go into it now.
Right.
But those are tweets on their own where Nuzzle strictly takes the links that were shared from your social feeds and ranks
and orders them
based on who has shared them and how often they've been shared.
And who in North America doesn't like something that ranks something? It's like, give me the top 5 of anything and I'm on board.
A great site that I like for finding a lot of new things at work is Product Hunt. I don't know if you know about that.
Everything you say and then follow it with, I don't know if you know about, the answer is going to be no. That's why I'm so glad you're here.
Yeah, Product Hunt is basically a place where you can find the newest apps that a lot of people are engaging at once. And there's this app that it's not for mobile, it's only on desktop, called Crello, which is
I don't know what that is. Just in case you ask me the question.
I just learned about it recently, but it basically makes those crazy infographics that you see a lot of people share, but for free, in many different templates for free, and you can put them together faster than you would on Photoshop.
And what's the name of it again?
Crello.
Crello, coming new to the Stringer podcast. We're totally going to use this.
But it only works on desktop, but for now. But it's great. So you can create engaging things fast, and I just could not believe how fast I can
share it out.
Put things up like that. So you just surf a lot, you'll see what sticks. Like it's incredible how things like that are changing.
I love like Silicon Valley, the show.
Oh, it's great.
Because that's like totally in my vein, but my understanding of anything that's going on in the Bay Area or San Francisco or anywhere between San Francisco and LA or all those awesome smart places, it's way over my head.
No, I mean, it's a lot of people fear maybe we're going to have another .com bubble of 99. Because it's following the similar thing where people with money are throwing investment opportunities in it in the hopes that it will go public and hit a lottery ticket. That's interesting. So there's a lot of investments like that make no money. Juicero just closed down. It was this ridiculous product that made juice. That made like juices for you, like a machine.
Right.
It cost stupid amount of money, like $700. They brought it down to $400 before they had to shut it down completely. But it was these little juice packs that you would buy that would make organic juices instead of doing it yourself with all the.
So it's like,
it was so expensive, but it got $120 million in funding.
It's like the Keurig of juicing.
Yeah,
their little cups
but it was
that you
so
put
expensive. Like even the packets were so expensive. Like why would I not
just buy an apple and juice
at
it
the store if it's going to cost this much?
I'm going to pay you just to sit here and teach me stuff all day long, like just to have these conversations, because I think I should have kept a list. I'm going to listen to this back and make notes so that I don't screw it up. Before I let you go, though, I'm interested to know if there's one, I don't want to say master piece of advice. That's mean because it puts a lot of pressure on you, but you are a master. But if there's one thing you've taken with you, something that someone told you, a mentor maybe early on, you spend some time, like you went to school, you spent some time interning. We're really impressionable at that stage. And I think we all get a piece that we kind of keep going back to.
Nothing specifically comes to mind because the way this happened was just ridiculous. Like, I didn't study to do it, but I didn't love what I was studying. And and I loved what I was doing there. And then I would meet people along the way that would kind of delude myself into thinking I can do it too. Mm-hmm. So I would see the precedent and I would be like, well, these people did it. No reason I can't. And so I think I kind of gave my own advice there. So there was that. The other thing I took with me that has been kind of good is when you're in it, go full on. Mm-hmm. Don't think about things for 6 months. At the end of 6 months when you're at something, then you can take a pen or paper or compete, whatever, to take a note and look back on if you felt you did something that you liked that you hadn't done before. Mm-hmm. And if you felt you were growing in that respect, you didn't think about it again for another 6 months. And then you did it again. So for most of my time when I was at the Fan, that's how it felt. I never, up until like the last year and a bit, mm-hmm. I always felt like in those 6 month increments, I was doing things that made me feel like I was growing. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of what led to a near 8-year employment there. Now, since that time, it was tough because you're bouncing around a lot of different things and really horrible things happen. Like, I mean, I left the Leafs to do National Post full-time. It was a full-time staff position. I felt I felt I found my fit there. Yeah. And then 4 months in, everyone got laid off. Everyone else was there for a while, but I was new and I had nothing. After 2 weeks' pay, I had nothing coming in. So I was scared. But I've gone through a lot of these things and you take jobs where you're just not sure if it's right. Like my second day at Twitter, I almost left because I wasn't sure if it was the right fit, and I wasn't ready to abandon covering hockey. It was like an emotional struggle. What I learned from that, and this is really great for young people, is if you're in a job that doesn't feel like the ideal at that point, love it anyway, because you'll never know what you learn in that can really help you for the next thing that you really do want. And that has helped me. So I always tell people whenever they're kind of jaded or like, oh, I wish it could be whatever, be like, don't think about how much this sucks now, but think about how much this is going to help you for that next thing. Mm-hmm. All these things can help you, even though at the time you feel like you're not really doing what you want to be doing, but it really can help you, and it's amazing. And if there's any regret, there's none. It's just, I wish I was, the picture perfect smiler the whole time. That's all, just to project.
God damn it, if you're working at a cell phone store right now, you're actually at the front of the damn industry, because had we thought like David 10 years ago, I would have started using my iPhone to record audio instead of taking it back to the damn station to do all the work. And it's funny, I laughed when you told that story, because that's all you see now in scrums are 7 iPhones and the one video guy who has an actual microphone that pushes in.
Yeah, and even then, now video delivery is all DeGero now. They don't have to go back. They just send it down that way instead of having to run back.
We haven't talked hockey at all, and I don't know that much. I'm like, for the second time, like last year and this year, I've been in the biggest hockey void that I don't feel I know anything that's going on.
Enjoy the ride.
Enjoy the ride. Thoughts on, you got any like parting wisdom you have on this upcoming season? Anything you're really excited about?
The Leafs rookies look like they'll be better, if not as good as they were before. I don't know. I don't know if we're ready to plan the parade as everybody keeps wanting to do. I still think there's going to be some growing pains with this team. Maybe second round this time around. Maybe third if things go well. There's still some issues, especially defensively. I think that they, not to any fault of their own. I mean, it's the same D, but I don't think it's necessarily better in terms of stud and star power than it's been in the past. So it'll be interesting. I think there's still some moves to be made to try to shore up that area, and they're going to have the free space to do that, so it'll be interesting.
I get all these people who clicked and started listening because they're like, hey, it's the week of the NHL starting, and hey, look, they have David Alter, and they're going to wait to this minute to realize that we gave you one sentence.
Sorry.
David, thank you so much. I keep hitting this damn thing below me. Thank you so much for coming in. This was a joy. I hope we get to do it again soon.
For sure.
You're always welcome back. Whenever you got anything that you want to, like, just even if it's gear stuff you want to talk about, we're always here for you.
I'm sure I'll be around.
Love it. Everyone, please, please, please eat your vegetables.